We all grow the ability to recognize patterns, human patterns, gestures of meaning, the sideways glance, the slight step backward, the patter of little feet to the rumble of mounted riders advancing from afar. Everything from a dust cloud on the horizon to that one person too many stepping into a lift. At least, that was the way it was for me in over 40 years of smuggling. I learned to spot a threat, to see the pattern that forms just before the opposing side tears off their masks and triggers the grinding ratchets of their handcuffs. That is the moment you need to switch to Plan C, to melt into the crowd, to walk out in 30 seconds flat, as De Niro famously said in Heat. Oddly, and for the sake of good drama, I suppose, Neil did not obey that rule. He walked back into trouble. Very few players obey their own rules as they consider themselves somehow exceptional. We begin to recognize the pattern of threat from childhood. Schoolyard bullies in search of prey, schoolgirls seeking attraction, teachers scanning for the usual suspects. But it is not the pattern recognition that is worth the mention today. Only experience and close attention drill those in. It's the acceptance of the results of our finely tuned metronomes that really counts. That is, the willingness to let go and abandon everything that is part of your life. To accept that there is no going back to what is assuredly a trap. I've had at least 5 of those moments, and it takes your breath away. It's airless. Now, outside of the criminal world, could there be any reason a law-abiding citizen might ever need advice on such a development? Is there any reason why you might reach your front door some evening, walk up the steps, take out your key, and then stop, turn, step backwards, reach into the gas meter box for that envelope in which a fresh passport, cards and keys might take you through an invisible portal of data to a new life? No, you'd think not. Why should you prepare for a disaster that could only happen in some outrageous case of mistaken identity or a viral attack by some enemy you never knew you had? But surely there has to be value in knowing quickly and accepting quickly that from that special moment you must make a complete change in your life. Dump the job, shed the clothes, rehome the family that somehow crept up around you, and move out and on. An early introduction to the reality that things can suddenly change came when I was 10 in primary school. The teacher set down a large crate of mixed soft drinks on his desk in room number 4 at Armadale State School. Green limes, orange Fanta, fizzing 7-Up, mysterious root beer, dark black currant and basic black Coca-Cola were just the front row for what promised to be yet another of this 5th grade teacher's many inventive classes. I'm sure I have spoken before of my 5th grade teacher, the late great J.G.B. Perry. On this day he elaborately placed a dozen fresh drinking straws in the empty inkwell of each kid's desk, so that one flavour does not corrupt the next liquid's taste, Mr. Perry explained. Of course we were excited, and had been hushed 2-3 times, warned once. Yet how quiet could our teacher expect 10-year-olds to be? Suddenly, the next flush of giggles from us, popping with chatter and their echoes, Mr. Perry snapped his fingers. "That's enough. You were warned." And with that, he deliberately moved from desk to desk, collecting every straw. The mock wine tasting was over before it could begin. We couldn't believe it. He'd gone to so much trouble setting the stage, we thought. How could it just end like that? We were quiet and disturbed for the rest of the day. How was it possible that all expectations could come to such an unreasonable end? We'd been warned, of course, but 30 years later, as most of you know, I walked into a travel agency in Bangkok's Chinatown after having near miraculously escaped 2 hours earlier from the airport. There, as I turned to leave, I saw 3 plainclothes-tied detectives. In a moment, I knew that even if they became merely 3 quiet policemen on the floor, should they find themselves there would be a dozen more nearby. I knew at that moment my life was over. My old life, that is. The one I wanted to live. My life in edition 12 or whatever it was. That one, at the time barely a week old, with new passports and places. But gone in an instant. No way out. 3 seconds. All gone. At 24, I'd been given more time, on occasion. 15 seconds. Longer than you'd think. What slowed their progress was the strength of the door of my Brighton house, as the SWAT team's sledgehammer blew splinters from the frame. Enough to look once at Clelia, wordless, understood, and the last time I would see her alive. There were 6 seconds in Denmark, 2003, a self-storage warehouse, lock-up, number 15. I'd stopped on my way to the airport, had to see if it was all stored well, check in when convenient, or make a special trip later sometime. I chose convenience. I had seen the carpenter on my way in, cutting timber. Just one stud, and he had clean overalls. Then there was the nervousness of the desk clerk. And finally, a couple who were inspecting an empty room with enough chatter as though house hunting, not just looking for storage. Chatter in English, by the way, for my ears only, I suppose. Which reminded me of Delhi, which reminding me of Lebanon. Memories in a whirl as all those undercover police pounced at once. As I was pulled upright, I knew again everything was gone. Identity burned. Places, closed, letters, furnishings, gone, gone, gone again. All things soft, given to all things hard. Hard beds and benches, hard prison vans and bad air. You think I'd know, would you not? The Kensington Hotel in 1999. And I mentioned this one. A chill London night between appointments and taxis, up the gritty stairs into the lobby. At the reception desk, asking for Mr. Northridge's key, as I was then, new name, new direction. As the receptionist handed me my room key, I noticed reservation cards either side of my room's pigeonhole, the big rack behind the reception desk. Either side of my room. And just at that moment, I noticed a single man seated on the cushions of the sofa behind me. The reflection told me that, his lower legs taut, tense it seemed. Another man was now waiting at my side. He had business at my desk I didn't like. Too many men. Turning gently to take in more, the receptionist spoke. Nothing for you, as if nothingness needed announcement. Then, of all things, a fourth man, quite bounding up the stairs, breathy, pushing hard on the brass handle of the long glass door. That did it for me. I dipped, dropped, gripping the key's loud, sharp-edged fob and turning. A pointless move, and I hated my lack of restraint then, but there were too many, and only a long shot might get me up and out. And then, What happened, you ask? And ask you should. Was it all over once more? The end, ashes of everything as before? No. I looked up and heard the soft breathing of civilians, non-combatants. I made some excuse about a damned hip injury flaring up to account for my sudden odd behaviour, that drop, embarrassed. I drew breath deep through my nose to be sure. Those of the lobby smelled of family or loneliness. They were not soldiers. Not my kind, anyway. I'd made a mistake. Too many false clues, too many men too young, or not old, but mainly too quick, too much to judge too quickly. It's not until you reach 50 that you grow a safety catch that simply won't rush to judge when time does not allow cool reason. Yet, when the danger is correctly seen and dumping one's life unavoidable, is that really so terrifying? We used to worry about losing a record collection, a favourite shirt, perhaps a comfortable chair. Sometimes the worry could be the loss of those who had been or had to be left out or shut out, left behind. There's not quite so many of them as you might think. If you sit down with a folder, pen, Sharpie, list of names. Often as not, you can meet safely with family. Less so with old friends. Old friends claim to be selective with whom they share their secrets, and yet somehow seem to select the most talkative man in town. The real point here is that these moments of all change need not be feared so much. Rattling as they are, as I speak, it's that time of the year when early spring reminds us that our New Year's resolutions came to nothing, so some new seasonal changes are promised. If your inescapable answer is looking around you, change everything, don't fear that. You're probably right. No need to become an outlaw and go on the run. But even so, take the outlaw's ruthlessness if it's life-changing you want. Take no passengers, no tourists. All change. Perhaps I'll see you in your new incarnation. I hope it was better than the last, and I hope mine to be. Good night for now.